Sometimes the most revealing moments happen when nobody's trying to reveal anything at all. No press release. No dramatic sit-down interview. Just three people laughing in front of a live studio audience, and somewhere in the middle of that laughter, something quietly honest slipped out. That's what happened when David Muir sat down with Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos on Live with Kelly&Mark. On paper, it was a routine appearance. The World News Tonight anchor stopping by to talk about ABC's big move into their new Manhattan headquarters, fresh off winning his third consecutive Emmy. But if you were watching closely, you noticed it wasn't really about the studio move at all. It was about something audiences have quietly loved for years. The very real, very human friendship sitting right there on camera. And that's the thing about Kelly Ripa. She has built a career and honestly a whole identity around saying the thing everyone else would keep to themselves. So when she casually admitted that she and Mark have unfettered access to David in their new building, and that sometimes they just wander up to his enormous portrait to stare at it while he has no idea they're standing there, it landed as comedy. It got the laugh it was going for. But underneath the joke, there was something almost tender about it, the idea that even after decades in television, even after Emmy wins and anchor desks and breaking news alerts, this is still a woman who lights up like a fan when someone she genuinely admires walks into the room. That's rare. In an industry built on performed enthusiasm, on hosts saying "I love you" to guests they've met twice, Kelly's excitement about David Muir has never once felt manufactured. And that authenticity is exactly why so many viewers latched onto the moment instead of scrolling past it. Let's talk about what actually happened, because the context matters more than the headline. ABC recently relocated several of its shows, including Good Morning America, Live with Kelly&Mark, and World News Tonight, into the same building in New York City. Suddenly, people who used to only cross paths at award shows or the occasional hallway hello are now, quite literally, working under the same roof. And when Muir mentioned that the new headquarters is decorated with massive portraits of the network's talent, Kelly couldn't resist admitting that she and Mark have made a habit of walking by his image, just to look at it, half joking that he doesn't even know they're doing it. Then came the part that really got people talking. Kelly told David, in front of a live audience, that she has taken what she called indecent photos of herself posing in front of his portrait. Photos she insisted were not suitable for broadcast. It was delivered with all the comic timing you'd expect from someone who spent years doing live television, and Mark, sitting right beside her, played along instead of looking remotely bothered by it. If anything, he leaned into the joke, adding his own line about which of Muir's larger-than-life photos in the building was his personal favorite. And that's really the moment worth slowing down on. Because if you strip away the punchline, what you're actually watching is a couple who trust each other enough to joke like that on live television without a flicker of tension between them. Mark didn't flinch. He didn't do the exaggerated "should I be worried" bit some husbands might reach for. He simply laughed along, added to the bit, and let his wife have her moment. That's not nothing. Anyone who has been in a long relationship knows that kind of easy, secure humor doesn't happen by accident. It's built, over years, through knowing exactly where the other person stands, even when the cameras are rolling and millions of people are watching. It's worth asking why this particular bit of banter struck such a chord with viewers, because on the surface, it's just a silly exchange about office portraits. But audiences didn't respond to the silliness. They responded to what the silliness revealed. Kelly Ripa has spent her entire career letting viewers into her life in small, unfiltered pieces. Her marriage, her kids, her insecurities, her sense of humor about aging in an industry obsessed with youth. People don't tune in to Live with Kelly&Mark for polished, guarded television. They tune in because it feels like eavesdropping on two people who genuinely like each other, joking around in front of friends. This moment with David Muir simply extended that same warmth to a third person, and viewers who already feel like they know Kelly&Mark got to watch that familiar dynamic play out with someone new. There's also something worth noticing in how Muir responded to all of it. He didn't seem thrown off by the attention. Instead, he leaned into the joke himself, mentioning that the building is filled with oversized images of the ABC team, and that there are, in his words, some genuinely intimidating photos scattered around. He seemed to understand exactly what kind of segment he had walked into, and rather than deflect, he matched their energy. That matters more than people might realize. Chemistry on live television is not something you can fake convincingly for very long. When three people are that comfortable riffing off each other in real time, without a script dictating every beat, it tells you the relationship existed long before the cameras turned on that day. And it did. This wasn't the first time Kelly has spoken about her admiration for David Muir, and it's part of why this moment felt like it belonged to a much longer story rather than a one-off bit. She's told the story before on her syndicated morning show, About the very first time she saw him deliver a report for World News Tonight, years before their paths crossed at ABC's new headquarters. She has admitted that she didn't know him at all at that point, that she was struck simply by watching him on screen, and that she broke a small workplace rule by emailing him through the internal ABC News system just to tell him he looked great on air that night. She didn't even have the volume up. She just wanted him to know someone had noticed. That detail changes the way this whole story lands. Because what looks, from the outside, like a running joke about staring at a portrait is actually the continuation of something that started years earlier, from a place of genuine, almost old-fashioned admiration. It's the kind of story you tell at a wedding toast, not a tabloid headline. Somebody sends an unsolicited compliment through an internal work system, and instead of it being awkward, it becomes the foundation of a lasting friendship. There's something oddly comforting in that. In an era where most public admiration gets filtered through likes and comments, Kelly's version of it was handwritten, direct, and a little bit vulnerable. It's also worth pointing out what this moment reveals about Kelly and Mark as a couple, separate from the David Muir of it all. Married for nearly 3 decades, they've built an entire piece of their public identity around being playfully, unapologetically honest about their marriage on live television. They tease each other, they occasionally overshare, and they let the audience see the parts of a long marriage that usually stay behind closed doors. The inside jokes, the eye rolls, the affectionate exasperation. When Kelly makes a joke like this one, and Mark responds not with jealousy but with his own contribution to the bit, it reinforces something viewers have picked up on for years. Their marriage isn't built on guardedness. It's built on humor being a form of intimacy, not a threat to it. That's ultimately why moments like this outlive their original airing. It's not really about David Muir's portrait or the joke about indecent photos, or even the Emmy win that brought him onto the show that day. It's about what those few minutes quietly confirmed for an audience that has been watching Kelly and Mark's marriage unfold in public for years. Here is a couple who can joke about admiration for someone else, live without missing a beat because the trust underneath it is that solid. Here is a friendship years in the making, that started with an anonymous compliment and turned into an easy, familiar rapport strong enough to survive being turned into a bit on national television. Maybe that's the real reason clips like this travel the way they do. It isn't shock value. It's recognition. Viewers see something in that exchange that resembles their own relationships. The inside jokes only your partner truly gets, the friendships that started small and became something lasting, the comfort of being able to laugh at yourself in front of someone you trust completely. Kelly and Mark didn't set out to make a statement about marriage or friendship that day. They were just being themselves the way they usually are, and the honesty in that is exactly what keeps people watching. Perhaps that's why so many people remain genuinely invested in Kelly and Mark's story, long after the segment ends and the next headline takes its place. It isn't because they've spent decades in the spotlight together. It's because even now audiences keep catching these small, unscripted glimpses of something real, a marriage that isn't afraid to laugh at itself, and a friendship built on nothing more complicated than one person noticing another and saying so. So here's the real question worth sitting with. What did this moment actually reveal to you? Was it the ease between Kelly and Mark, the years-long friendship with David Muir, or something else entirely that caught your attention? If you've followed their journey for a while, you probably have a favorite Kelly and Mark moment of your own, the one that made you feel like you understood their marriage a little better. Share it in the comments because moments like this one only mean as much as the people who remember them.